Once upon a time, in the quiet town of Wisteria Hollow, lived a young woman named Alice. She was no longer the curious child who had tumbled down the rabbit hole into Wonderland years ago. Now 22, she had grown up with memories of her adventures fading like mist under the morning sun. To most, they seemed like fanciful dreams or stories conjured by an overactive imagination. But deep within her heart, Alice never stopped believing that Wonderland existed and that it needed her still. One crisp autumn evening, as golden leaves swirled around her feet, Alice found herself standing before an ancient mirror at the edge of the forest. It stood taller than any man, its frame carved with twisting vines and strange symbols that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. A voice whispered from within the glass, soft yet urgent, "Alice, you are needed again." Startled, Alice stepped back, but curiosity, her oldest companion, pulled her forward. As she gazed into the mirror's depths, the surface rippled like water. Before she could think twice, the world shifted beneath her feet, and she fell not into darkness this time, but through a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. When she landed, Alice discovered she was not in Wonderland. Instead, she stood on the border of a vast, uncharted land-realm, both beautiful and haunting. Rolling hills stretched out before her, dotted with floating islands suspended in mid-air. Rivers flowed upward toward starry skies painted in hues of violet and gold. Strange creatures flitted about, winged foxes with eyes like lanterns, trees whose branches moved like arms, and shadowy figures darting between realms. This place, she soon learned, was called the Forgotten Realms, a hidden corner of existence where lost things went to be remembered or forgotten forever. A small creature resembling a cross between a hedgehog and a hummingbird fluttered up to her. Its fur sparkled like frost, and its tiny wings buzzed incessantly. "You're late," it chirped accusingly. "We've been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" Alice asked, brushing dirt from her dress. "Who's we, and why am I here?" "The Keepers," the creature replied cryptically. "They protect what remains of the balance between worlds, but something has gone wrong. Something dark is spreading across the realms, erasing everything it touches. Only you can stop it." "Why me?" Alice demanded, though part of her already knew the answer. "Because you've walked between worlds before," the creature said simply. "And because you have courage enough to face what others cannot." Before Alice could protest further, the ground trembled beneath her feet. Shadows coiled around them, forming monstrous shapes that loomed closer with every passing second. The hedgehog hummingbird tugged at her sleeve urgently. "We must go, follow me." With little choice but to trust the peculiar guide, Alice ran alongside it as the landscape blurred around them. They crossed bridges made of spider silk, climbed staircases that spiraled endlessly upward, and passed through portals that shimmered like soap bubbles. Along the way, Alice encountered remnants of forgotten stories, pages torn from books, melodies caught mid-note, faces half formed and fading. Each fragment whispered to her, pleading to be saved. But there were too many, and Alice realized with growing dread that she couldn't save them all. At last, they reached the heart of the Forgotten Realms, a great library unlike any Alice had ever seen. Its shelves soared impossibly high, filled with glowing orbs instead of books. Each orb contained a memory, a dream, or a piece of a forgotten world. At the center of the library floated a massive crystal, pulsating with light but cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, leaking shadows that writhed like living things. The heart of memory, the hedgehog hummingbird explained. It holds the essence of all that is remembered. If it shatters completely, the Forgotten Realms will collapse, and all these worlds will vanish forever. "And what caused this?" Alice asked, staring at the ominous fractures. "The Shadow King," came a new voice, one deep and resonant. Turning, Alice saw 3 figures emerge from the shadows, the Keepers. One was a towering stag with antlers crowned in stars, another a serpent coiled around a staff of fire, and the third a woman cloaked in shifting mist. "He seeks to erase all memory," the stag continued, "to rewrite reality according to his own design. Without someone brave enough to confront him, he will succeed." "But I'm just me," Alice stammered. "I don't know how to fight a king." "You fought the Queen of Hearts once," the Mist Woman reminded her gently. "And you won not with strength, but with wit and heart. Trust yourself, Alice. Trust your belief in wonder." Taking a deep breath, Alice nodded. With the Keeper's guidance, she devised a plan to infiltrate the Shadow King's fortress, located beyond the Veil of Oblivion, a barrier so thick with despair that few dared approach it. The journey to the fortress tested Alice in ways she'd never imagined. She faced illusions designed to prey on her doubts, puzzles that challenged her intellect, and trials that forced her to confront her deepest fears. Yet with each challenge overcome, she grew stronger, more determined. Finally, she stood before the Shadow King himself. He was a figure of pure darkness, his form constantly shifting, his voice a chorus of whispers that echoed in her mind. "Why do you resist?" he asked, his tone almost pitying. "Wouldn't it be easier to let go, to forget the pain, the loss, the burdens of the past?" For a moment, Alice faltered. Memories of her childhood, the loneliness, the ridicule surfaced, threatening to overwhelm her. But then she thought of Wonderland, of the friends she'd made there, and of the countless souls trapped in the Forgotten Realms, counting on her. "No," she said firmly. "Some things are worth remembering even if they hurt, even if they scare us, because without them we lose ourselves." Summoning all her courage, Alice reached into her pocket and pulled out a shard of the Heart of Memory, given to her by the Keepers. Holding it aloft, she channeled every ounce of hope, love, and wonder she possessed. Light erupted from the shard, piercing the Shadow King's darkness and forcing him to retreat. As the shadows dissolved, the forgotten realms began to heal. The cracks in the heart of memory sealed, and the fragments of forgotten worlds returned to their rightful places. The keepers bowed to Alice, gratitude shining in their eyes. "You have done well," the stag said. "But remember, the power to preserve wonder lies not in magic, but in the hearts of those who believe." When Alice awoke, she was back in Wisteria Hollow, standing before the ancient mirror. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been a dream. But as she turned away, she noticed something clutched in her hand, a single feather, sparkling like frost. Smiling softly, Alice tucked it into her pocket and walked home, knowing that somewhere beyond the looking glass, wonders waited and that she would always belong to them.